Across the dry grasslands of the Maasai Reserve, a thin lioness moves in silence. She used to be a strong pack member, but now she is just a fading figure. During every hunt, she was pushed aside and left with nothing to eat. Hurt after colliding with another lion, she could no longer compete for meals. The cuts on her skin remained unhealed, her belly growled, and despair filled her eyes. Whenever the pride secured prey, she only dared to stand at a distance and watch. Then she slipped away quietly, with nowhere else to go. She had to live like a wanderer in that thirsty wilderness. Her coat was ragged, each step felt heavy, each breath seemed like a final one. No one cared about her anymore, not even members of her own kind. They even threatened her. The lioness decided it was time to leave the area, moving far beyond territory any animal claimed. She followed a path toward steep cliffs west of the reserve. Thirsty and exhausted, she searched for a puddle or signs of water. As she neared the edge, her hind paws slipped on damp moss, clinging there. Her heavy body lost balance. She swayed and tumbled into the ravine. The drop was not deadly, but it caused both pain and panic. She tried to climb out, but the slick rock made every effort futile. Half submerged in cold, dark water, she groaned, fearing she had been forgotten. One leg was sprained, her stomach empty, claws bleeding from clutching rocks. She cried out, her moans fading as her body weakened and her spirit nearly died. The sun was setting. Darkness fell over the spot where she was trapped, cold and without hope, with no member of her pride coming to save her. She could only pray for a miracle. She lay there panting, eyes fixed on the cliff above, as if waiting for help to arrive. Then a strange sound echoed from above, and her hope stirred. Ranger Samuel Tabo was driving along the cliffs, as he did each morning. He had dedicated his life to this land, knowing every sound and scent carried by the wind. When his vehicle stopped, he heard a faint groan from below. He walked to the cliff's edge, peered down, and was stunned. Below him lay a lioness, limp, in the dark water. Her eyes met his, weak but still full of pleading. Samuel softly said, "Do not be afraid. I am here. I will not leave you alone." He tried to call headquarters on his radio, but the signal failed. Without hesitation, he removed his cap and lay down on the cliff's edge to comfort her. His gentle words seemed to soothe the lioness. She growled softly, then fell silent, her gaze following his every move. "Wait for me. I will pull you up," Samuel whispered, and he slid down the rock face. No ropes, no harness, just willpower and strong arms. The wind began to blow, but he stayed focused on the shaking animal below. It was not his first rescue of a wild creature, but it was the most emotional one he had ever faced. He crouched, gripped the lioness's front paw, and began to pull her up. Inch by inch, she did not resist. Instead, she seemed to cooperate, as if she understood his intention. His muscles strained, sweat falling onto the cracked rock. After several minutes, half of her body lay on the cliff's edge. Samuel braced himself with his knees, then leaned forward, gathered all his strength, and gave one final heave. The lioness's entire body slid up onto the ledge. Both lay in the hot sun, panting, exhausted, but alive. Without delay, he called for a veterinary team to bring a rescue truck. They placed her on a stretcher, and he kept eye contact to reassure her. At the reserve clinic, the vet examined her. The diagnosis: extreme exhaustion, severe malnutrition, and a mild sprain in her right leg. Samuel asked permission to care for her under veterinary supervision. She was more than a lion to him. She was a life to protect. From that day, he named her Luma, meaning light in Swahili. Every day, Samuel sat by her enclosure, fed her, and spoke to her like a concerned guardian. Luma was cautious at first, but soon she accepted food from his hand. Regular meals helped her recover quickly. After 2 weeks, her wounds had healed, her coat began to shine, and life returned to her. Luma started pacing in the enclosure, even rubbing the bars when she saw him coming. Samuel realized clearly that she was no longer the weak lioness she had been. A month later, the vets declared her fully healthy and ready to return to the wild. Instead of sending her back to her old pride, Samuel suggested placing her with a lone male lion. The reserve management agreed. Preparing for their first meeting, Luma was moved to a nearby enclosure where a male lion named Nuru lived alone. They looked at each other, did not growl, but circled and then sat close together. It was the start of a new chapter. She would no longer be alone. Samuel watched from a distance, his heart warmed by the sight of companionship. In the early days, the two lions hunted together, played, and rested side by side in the shade. Their bond formed naturally without force, as though they belonged together. 3 months later, the vets announced Luma was pregnant and in excellent health. Samuel smiled at the news. He had not expected her to recover so completely. He asked to build a separate buffer zone where Luma could be cared for during her pregnancy. Nuro stayed nearby so Luma would not feel stressed. With nutritious meals, regular checkups, and constant attention, Luma was treated like a mother to be. By the 4th month, her belly was clearly round, and she moved more slowly, often resting beneath a tree. Samuel often stroked her back and whispered to her as though she were a friend. Early one morning, on the 160th day, Luma gave birth to 3 healthy cubs in a sheltered enclosure. Nuru stood outside, watching with a proud expression. Luma gently licked each cub, her eyes searching for Samuel as he entered. She looked at him with deep gratitude. 3 cubs were born, symbols of resilience and care. Samuel named them Tomo, Denio, and Pico, meaning hope, grace, and gift. Luma now lives semi-wild with Nero and their 3 cubs, safe and at peace. Visitors to Madik always hear Luma's story and her savior's name. Samuel still visits their enclosure daily, filled with quiet pride. Life in the wild is harsh, but here, care can work wonders. Thank you for listening to Luma's story. Please like and subscribe to support our work.